अरे ये पे 2,000 रुपए दे रहेगा तो ऐसे प्लांट करेगा ना ऐसे ये पे
इधर नहीं करेगा वो प्रोडक्ट में जाके रुपए में जाके
मैं तो ऐसा फेंकूंगा
वो अच्छा है भाई तुमको पता नहीं बहुत अच्छा है अरे असर मत था मजा आता आनंद आया एक दो बार तो मैंने बोला बस का कैसा रहता है
मैं तो लिखा में किसी पूछ रहा था इतना साइड अरे मैं कुछ कटका भाई यार अबे मैं कोई क्या है तुमने
इसने बताया 4 बार
अरे कैसे चलाता है वो मैंने इसका ट्रेस लिखा आज इसका पूरा का पूरा पेट्रोल
अरे मैं आधा हवा में था
अरे तू छोड़ अरे कितने कितने बचा
अबे मैं स्कूटी पे था आधा हवा में था
अरे उसका फाइट चला था ना मेरी जान हलक में थी पूरी मैं घर पहुंचेगा कैसे था अरे कहीं साथ मारा था वो तो है क्या
बाहर जाना अच्छा कर
ये वो फोन दे अंदर से मेरा
Good evening, all of you. What are they? We are already finished with the queue. हाँ? तो हमेशा पहले बैठते थे ना? What happened? Very good. So last class we had already finished with the chapter on absorption, that is over. So to maintain the continuity, I want to start with photosynthesis transformation complete करेंगे at one go. How was the exam? मार्क्स मिले? नहीं सब लोग एक सेक्शन के नहीं हो ना कितना मिला किसी ना कितना कितना मिला वो तो बताइए on 80 कितना you deserve much more you deserve much more कितना मिला 71 very good श्री राम तुम्हारे सेक्शन को दियो 63 वर्क हार्ड ऐश्वर्या ना कितना मिला 68 ये 66 अच्छा लग रहा है मुझे मैं तुम भी बहुत पढ़ हो ना तुमको नहीं मिला मार्क्स 58 मारना है चलो बाहर चलो वास्तव में उनके पास एक बड़ा सा लाठी होती नहीं ये मैथ नहीं है सिली मिस्टेक नहीं होता केमिस्ट्री फिजिक्स बायोलॉजी में सिली मिस्टेक नहीं होता अयन come here 10th स्टैंडर्ड में आके मुझे इधर और उधर नहीं चाहिए मुझे फटाफट आ you got the marks कितना मिला very good now for all of you जिन लोगों को 60s में मिला है, little bit work hard more. Now I just want to know, जिन लोगों को 60s में मिला है, where did you lose mark? Did you analyze? Key terms के spellings. अच्छा. ओमकार. Give reason में कौन से? हाँ. तो give reason है, definition तो मैं हमेशा क्लास में बोलती हूँ, you have to write a proper definition always. For definition, for laws, even in genetics you are going to learn the law and the definition and the principle. You cannot write on your own. You have to write that standard thing only. And then diagram based questions was okay for you, or you got marks in that. Give reason, and what was the other type of a question? Difference, you all could manage writing. And what was there? Diagram based question. Diagram based question, so I was maybe lost marks. Kiss me, कौन chapter से? Photometer में? हाँ, Berlin पे. What type of a question was it? What was the confusion there? The organ which produces urea, start the function. The defect in which I'll just go through the paper since majority of you are from this. Just take 5 minutes. Better fast. So technical terms may some of you lost mark. Technical terms like the questions uptake of minerals against the concentration gradient, that was easy. Organ which produces urea, that was easy. Structural functional units of the kidney, defect in which mature women develop main characteristics, virilism, and artificial kidney, that was exact location, hydrophore, adrenal gland, stomata, urinary, this is all good. Different. नहीं, exact location, stomata का location लिखना है. Lower epidermis. Lower epidermis. We do not write that. Lower epidermis. So epidermis नहीं लिखा तो क्या लिखा? Lower epidermis have to write it. नहीं सरफेस में लिख सकते हो. लोअर एपिडर्मिस लिखना है. नो सरफेस में नहीं not a noise. Then next is differentiate. This was good. This came to the population chapter. Diabetes, this is okay. Hypertonic is also hypertonic you could write, no? Yes. True false में कुछ confusion था. Multiple choice. Questions are good enough. It's nothing. It is okay. Urea concentration is okay. Okay, fine. Definition, hormone, you know the definition. That's a simple definition. Osmotic pressure. Process of osmosis. Or the movement of the solvent into the solution. Naturality, population, nature. Root pressure, micturiation of, है ना? अच्छा, give reason किसमें गया माँ? The blood flows to the glomerulus under pressure. Insulin वाले अच्छा, insulin is that means it's an injection. You are supposed to write here because it should directly enter into the blood. If you take tablets and go through the stomach, and the pepsin will break it down because it's a protein. Simple मतलब क्या लिखा तुमने? अच्छा, check out what you have written. This question was okay. No, this one was okay. All of you got this correct. Label the parts 44. Label the
cell wall
कौन सा? Hypertonic solution. That two different parts, 1 and 3. Technical term of the state plasmolysis. No. Redraw the diagram. Okay, ordinary water. This is good. Revise करोगे तो all these minor errors which has happened will not happen again. तो ये गार्डनिंग में क्या प्रॉब्लम था?
आपको क्या है? मैम सोडियम मैम 7% चाहिए।
6 will always be there. 6 तो रहेगा।
अरे पैकेज है कि वो छोड़िए। 6 चाहिए।
इसमें समरी से about this. इसमें क्या प्रॉब्लम था?
मैम कुछ मैम बस लिमिटेशन से
Name the apparatus you know.
Yes,
Name and define the physiological process studied. Name and define the physiological process studied. Name क्या लिखोगे? हाँ, define the definition लिखना है. What is the role of the air bubble? क्या लिखा? Role of the air bubble is water uptake. To measure the water uptake. Air bubble move हो रहा है तो तुमको समझ में आ रहा है कि how much of the water is entering into the pipes. Function of the parts labeled reservoir. Reservoir का function क्या लिखा? To take the bubble back to zero and repeat the experiment. Water will come down so that you can take the bubble back to zero. Mention one limitation. Limitation तो आता है नहीं आता तुमको limitation. The tube will dry out. Introduction of one bubble is difficult. And what was the third? Temperature. Environmental factors affect the process. है ना? Go through. For the next exam. When is the next exam? October. हाँ. जो भी है. In the next exam, again the portion of the exam will be something around 5-6 chapters. So for the some important chapters they may repeat. That's the general rule. अभी तुम्हारे teachers क्या करेंगे I don't know, but that is what we do. Most of the chapters, important chapters we would repeat. So now in that case, keep reading. First of all, you get an idea what about the chapters that she's going to give you, and then revise karo, keep practicing with the questions. And the most important thing is you should revise, keep a mark. एक benchmark रखना है. भरोसे ऐसे बस भगवान के भरोसे नहीं कि जितना मिला चलेगा. Now in the next exam, your error should shrink, keep on shrinking. 80 mark का exam है अभी. Error 10 marks से, I should say 5 marks से ज़्यादा अभी होना ही नहीं है. तुम 5 marks सोच के जाओगे तो 10 marks का error होगा ही. Now your target should be 70 and up, all of you. हाँ? मिलेगा, obviously मिलेगा. आराम से on the last day. So now when you talk about as and when you are moving towards your prelims आते आते वो जो full marks और error का difference एकदम कम हो जाना चाहिए. That much proficiency you should have now. तो उसके लिए क्या करोगे? पढ़ाई has many forms. पढ़ाई का तो forms. अब मैं बुक लेके 4 घंटा बैठी हूँ. जरूरी नहीं कि मैंने पढ़ाई किया. So you have to understand, is your time worth spent? If it is, that will show in the form of your marks. If it is not, then also it will show in your marks. आया समझ में? तुम्हारा एग्जाम हो गया? कब होगा? Do well in your exam. So now we are going to start with the next chapter, that is photosynthesis. Transpiration बाद में करेंगे. That's an easier chapter. Photosynthesis हम पहले करेंगे. Is that okay? हाँ सर्कुलेट ये चीजें कंप्लीट करते हैं पहले और भी आपको बता दें नहीं ट्रांसपिरेशन हुआ है अच्छा पहले हम फोटोसिंथेसिस कर ट्रांसपिरेशन इज इजी चैप्टर वो फटाफट 2 लेक्चर में खत्म हो जाए लेट अस स्टार्ट विद फोटोसिंथेसिस नो टॉकिंग अरे ये महिला मंडल नॉन स्टॉप दे विल टॉक ऋषा कितना है तो बॉस यस कम गया
बॉस
तुम लोग इधर आ जाओ ऑल द थ्री उसके इधर आओ
मैम आपको तो ठंडी चाहिए
ऑफ कोर्स आई एम सो सरप्राइज्ड
हम यहाँ पे दूध का
यू आर ऑलमोस्ट हाफ ऑफ माय एज एंड कैसे तुम लोग का ब्लड इज नॉट हॉट इनफ हां shivering every time eat a lot never mind नहीं बाद में pneumonia हो जाएगा तुम फर्स्ट बेंच में आ जाओ जब से देखना नहीं चलो in standard you have to read a lot and a lot of exercise read a lot of exercise ये 3 चीज अभी करना है और कुछ मैंने बोला और इंस्टाग्राम नहीं चलो
मैम हेलो मैम
yes who is this
मैम आपने शेयर स्क्रीन किया है जब शेयर स्क्रीन
who is this from the हाँ इसमें बोलो
मैम आपने शेयर स्क्रीन किया है
हाँ
शेयर स्क्रीन
नहीं
मैम
शेयर स्क्रीन नहीं किया अच्छा गुरबेश वाले भी बैठ होंगे टुडे
I'm not feeling well, ma'am.
So first of all, we'll write down the definition of photosynthesis. What is the definition of photosynthesis?
Ma'am, I can't see the board. Huh.
And this. Can you see now?
Yes, ma'am.
Photosynthesis, what is the definition? Definition correctly likho. Biochemical process. Take out your notebooks, all of you. Biochemical process in which green plants prepare organic food using carbon dioxide, water, chlorophyll, and sunlight. So now that we are talking about the process, photosynthesis, so this is a definition that always you should remember. जिसमें key terms कौन से हैं जो तुम्हारे definition में होना ही चाहिए? What is this process giving rise to? Organic food. And what is used? Carbon dioxide है, water, chlorophyll, sunlight. Overall chemical equation क्या लिखना है? Overall chemical equation is 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 12 molecules of water. In the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, in the presence of chlorophyll and sunlight, gives rise to 1 molecule of glucose and oxygen and water. Now, when you are talking about this particular overall, a common question that you may always expect in your paper 1 mark question, that on the overall chemical equation. इसमें when you check your book, I don't know what your teacher has told, but this is always to be written. You also get this thing to be written in certain text. 6 molecules of water, meaning 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water, and then 1 molecule of glucose. But if you're writing this, many students would do this as a mistake. They would write this, and they would also write this, which is wrong. Now, first of all, why I would always say that you are always supposed to write 12 molecules of water, because the process of photosynthesis हमेशा surplus of water में होता है. Deficient water में कभी भी photosynthesis run ही नहीं होगा. And if you're writing this condition also, if you consider that the process is still happening with 6 molecules of water, then water will never be a byproduct. तो तुम यहाँ पे 6 लिखोगे, यहाँ पे 6 लिखोगे, overall equation is actually wrong. So students take this for granted. ये तो बहुत simple है, इसमें तो 1 mark. फिर भी many students don't get this 1 mark. So take a note of this. ये नहीं लिखना है. You are always to write down 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 12 molecules of water, 1 molecule of glucose. You get a question always in your paper. For 1 molecule of glucose, how many molecules of carbon dioxide is required? 6. So that's a simple concept to remember. Overall chemical equation. Now, next is we try understanding what are some of the raw materials used. Remember, when we are going to understand this particular process, there's a difference between raw materials and the factors. Factors, which is regulating the process. Raw materials, किसको बोलेंगे? What is actually necessary? Reactants, what is actually necessary to get that glucose. Okay, raw materials. So सबसे important raw material, सबसे पहला raw material कौन सा? Carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide कहाँ से आता है? Where from the leaves will get this atmosphere. कौन सा process से? Okay, let me write down the structure first. कौन सा structure involved? Stomata. कौन सा process से? Better word? Diffusion. So ये हो गया carbon dioxide. Now I talk about water. So water majorly कहाँ से? From the soil. Which structures are involved? We had already studied this. Root hair cells. Which process?
Osmosis.
Osmosis. Active transport. किसने बोला ये?
Ma'am, it's called
Osmosis. हाँ, osmosis लिखो. Then also it's okay. Now, next is ये हो गया 2 raw materials, carbon dioxide and water. Now, next is we talk about chlorophyll. You get chlorophyll ka definition also to be written in your paper. What is chlorophyll?
The green pigment.
Coloring pigment.
हाँ, complete definition कौन बोलेगा? Chapter over no school में नहीं. Chlorophyll definition: the green colored photosynthetic pigment produced by chloroplast. The green colored photosynthetic pigment, green colored photosynthetic pigment produced by chloroplast. Chloroplast क्या है? What is chloroplast? तन्मय, chloroplast क्या है? हाँ, तो chloroplast क्या है? Plastid. It's a cell organelle. So now, if I talk about this chloroplast, the structure of the chloroplast is something like this. It's a double-walled cell organelle, something like the mitochondria. That the chloroplast in a section, the chloroplast more or less appears this way, and this chloroplast has got certain structures in it. Some stack-like structures, coin-like structures, and this stack-like, disc-like, coin-like structures are always in stacks, a stack of 10 to 12 majorly, and they are always connected to each other. And then there is the matrix there, if you remember the basic structure of this organelle. Now, when I talk about this chloroplast, What is this single plate-like structure known as? This is known as thylakoid. A single disc-like structure or a plate-like structure is known as the thylakoid. And the entire bundle or the stack of thylakoids को क्या बोलेंगे? Granum. A number of granum क्या बोलेंगे? Grana. This is the grana. So the same thing I'm telling you in 2-3 ways. First of all, I said ये जो chloroplast है, this is a cell organelle plastid. It is a plastid that the plant cells have majorly. अभी यहाँ पे two important parts are there. What is it? The two important parts that the cell organelle has. One is the granum, and the other is the matrix, जिसको stroma बोलेंगे. Stroma. The chloroplast has got two major regions. The stack of thylakoids known as granum, and the matrix, cytoplasm matrix known as stroma. Now back into this concept of granum. What is a granum? What is the definition of this word granum? Stack of thylakoids. What is a granum? Stack of thylakoids. What is a thylakoid? It's a disc-like structure. A disc-like structure which produces and stores disc-like structure that produces and stores chlorophyll. So remember this. What is this? It is a disc-like structure that produces and stores chlorophyll. What is a thylakoid? The disc-like structures, and on the wall of the thylakoid, the pigment is constantly getting stored on the wall of the thylakoid. So if I talk about a single disc-like structure, it is on the walls where the pigment is constantly getting produced and stored. Back to this word chlorophyll. What I said, how will you define this word? A green colored photosynthetic pigment produced by chloroplast. Now, again, you are also asked about this, the chemical composition of chlorophyll. What is the chemical composition of chlorophyll? Chlorophyll has got carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and magnesium. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, magnesium. That's the basic chemical composition of chlorophyll. Basic chemical composition of chlorophyll is, so you get sometimes MCQ questions. Magnesium or manganese is a component of chlorophyll. It is magnesium. So now that we are talking about chlorophyll is basically a green colored photosynthetic. Why do we say it is a photosynthetic pigment? Because it can trap sunlight, solar energy. It can trap solar energy. Now we are talking about the word chloroplast. We are talking about the word chloroplast. So now that we are talking about this cell organelle, where is this cell organelle present? Where is this cell organelle present? Now if I talk about the section of a leaf, I want to talk about the section of a leaf. Now in the section of a leaf, say suppose, why here both the PPT and the screen is not, you cannot share both at the same time. Who can do this?
We have to share screen for that camera to work. Man can do it.
This is on, but I'm going to show you that at the same time. I'm going to show you that. Let me just try 1 minute.
Because there are two cameras. That main camera has the main video, and when you share screen,
this one is on. This one is on. But यहाँ पे हमेशा ये problem है. अच्छा, 1 minute. Let me see if it happens. Because if you don't see the structures, you cannot remember it properly. Understand this properly. Gurvesh, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Basic. Layer. Are you able to see the PPT that I'm showing you?
Yes, ma'am.
I will show you this first. So now I'm talking about. अच्छा, पहले तो ये देखो. I'm talking about the leaf. This is another minus. Now, when we are talking about the leaf, दिखाई दे रहा है? तो इधर आओ ना, move your body in a little bit. Now, this leaf, what I'm trying to show you is that this particular leaf has got some layers of cells. We are trying to understand ये जो chloroplast cell organelle है. अरे मेरा बैग कहाँ पे लेके जा रहे थे? I'll forget my. Now, when we are talking about this leaf, the entire leaf, you cut it in a section, there are various layers. What are those layers? You have to remember now. And the names of those cells, those are also very, very important for this. What are the different layers of cells? Can you see this? When we are talking about the different layers of cells, what I'm showing you is this leaf, when you draw the section, the leaf has got various layers of cells. The leaf has various layers of cells. Come across the name of these cells. What are the names that you have to remember here? First of all, the section of the leaf will have two basic layers which are known as the epidermis. Two basic layers, and this layer I will term it as the epidermal or the epidermis. After that, ये जो पूरा layer है, इसको बोलेंगे, this layer is known as the layer of mesophyll cells. The layer of mesophyll cells. Now, the layer of mesophyll cells from plant to plant, that will differ. Leaf to leaf, that will differ. In some leaves, there will be just 5-6 layers, or in some leaves, there may be about 10-12. In some leaves, there will be even more. The number of layers of the cells differ in leaf to leaf. But whatever it is, the type of the cells can be divided into two categories. One is known as the palisade mesophyll. Palisade mesophyll, and the other group of cells are known as the spongy mesophyll. What is the difference? In any leaf, you will always come across this palisade mesophyll is having the large number of, or the concentration of the chloroplast is maximum here. हाँ, spongy mesophyll में भी chloroplast रहेगा, but comparatively lesser. So now, if I say which are the group of cells which undergo the process of photosynthesis in a leaf, what is your answer? Mesophyll. Mesophyll. Are the epidermal cells undergoing the process of photosynthesis? No. But again, if I show you that there are those guard cells here, do the guard cells undergo the process of photosynthesis? Yes, because they also have got chloroplast. They also have chloroplast. So ये हम बाद में सीखेंगे. So पहले ये याद रखना है that now I'm talking about the cell organelle. I'm talking about the cell organelle present in which group of cells of the leaf? Mesophyll. सबसे ज़्यादा concentrate कहाँ पे? Palisade mesophyll. Palisade mesophyll ज़्यादातर एक ही layer होता है and spongy mesophyll ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा. So now we're trying to understand that this chloroplast in a cell, how many of them majorly? 40 to 50. In a particular cell, in a single cell, I talk about that in this cell, how many chloroplasts majorly? 40 to 50 or 60. This is the normal count. Is it a small count? A big count it is. एक cell के अंदर 40 to 60 chloroplast होना मतलब it's a big count we are talking about. And if I see a particular leaf, एक छोटा सा area, what is the area that we are also talking about? Square millimeter area. कितना बड़ा होगा square millimeter area? इतना सा. A square millimeter area of a leaf has got thousands and thousands of chloroplasts. So now the summary is, why am I giving you the idea of this number is, a particular leaf is already having thousands and thousands of chloroplasts, and every single chloroplast is undergoing the process of photosynthesis. So at any particular period of time, the plant is actually producing so much of glucose than what the plant actually requires. So that the plant always has a big surplus of the organic food that it prepares. So first of all, we try to understand this story first, where we are saying that yes, chloroplast is the most important organelle necessary. Where is the chloroplast producing the chlorophyll pigment? In the thylakoid. Where is the thylakoid, or what is the site of the thylakoid where the chlorophyll is stored? In the inner walls. In the inner walls of the thylakoid, the pigment is stored, produced and stored. And now also you have to remember stroma. What is the stroma? The ground substance. Write down the definition. The ground substance or the matrix of the chloroplast. The ground substance or the matrix. The ground. Durvesh, you are writing?
Yes, ma'am.
Stroma, the ground substance or the matrix. The ground substance or the whatever I'm writing on the board, I'm telling it twice, you write, because I want to show you this images also at the same time so that you understand better. Grana. No, I said what? Stroma. First you write this. You wrote stroma. Stroma you wrote, Durvesh. Stroma, the ground substance or the matrix of the chloroplast. Ground substance or matrix of the chloroplast. Grana. Now next you write grana. Grana. Grana, yeah, grana. Definition will remain the same. Grana, you understand the plural term that I'm talking about, no? Granum. What is the definition of the word granum? A stack of thylakoids. A stack of thylakoids. Stack of thylakoids. Stack of thylakoids. That is called the grana. So now after this, we now move into the concept of overall chemical equation again. So we have been talking about the chloroplast, we have learned about the main parts of the chloroplast, and we have also learned about which are the cells in the section of a leaf now to understand which has got the chloroplast. The mesophyll, to remember this word, mesophyll cells. Now we come back here again. Where we are understanding, we were talking about the raw materials. Now I talk about the word products. Products. Now I talk about products. What are the products which are produced in this process of photosynthesis? Products are what? The products which are used in the products which are formed in this process. The first one that I'm talking about is glucose. The first product that I'm talking about is glucose. So what is this glucose? We know it's a type of a sugar, no? And this sugar, the glucose, now that it is formed in the plant cells, it will have two fates. Tanmay, any doubt? Anything that is not clear, you rub it on his t-shirt, but you listen to what I'm saying.
Yes, sir.
Now, no. Can I just wash my face and hands and legs and take bath? Not here. There's ink only, no? Then you rub it on your shirt, his shirt, but you listen to it. Now, glucose. When we are talking about glucose, the two fates of glucose. What is the first fate of glucose? This glucose will get converted into sucrose. Dissolved. Now, it will get dissolved in the sap of phloem cells. Dissolved in the sap of phloem cells and then distributed. So what is this process called? This process is called translocation. This process is called translocation. What is translocation? One of the fate of glucose is, now that the glucose is getting formed, it will immediately get converted into sucrose. Now get dissolved in the sap of the phloem cells. We have already studied, no? Phloem is the tissue which helps in the process of conduction of food. So it gets dissolved in the sap of the phloem cells and getting distributed in every different part of the plant. If that is the process you are talking about, then this is what is known as translocation. So you are getting translocation as a definition also. Now we क्या लिखना है? Translocation का definition क्या लिखना है? क्या कैसे लिखोगे ट्रांसलोकेशन का डेफिनेशन?
Dissolution of
Distribution of
The glucose produced in
distribution
dissolved in the
of
cells that
soluble form of the food or distribution of food in the form of sucrose by the phloem cells. Distribution of the food in the plant cells in the form of sucrose. Distribution of food in the form of, or distribution of food in the plant cells in the form of sucrose by the phloem cells. By the phloem cells. That is called translocation. What is the other fate? Let us know. So just now I was already giving you an introduction saying that a cell is already having about a large number of chloroplasts. एक सेल के अंदर 40 to 50 chloroplasts होना मतलब it's a big number. So every particular cell is producing so much. So at the same time we are also understanding that whatever amount of glucose has been formed is always in excess. So what will the plant do with that excess amount? The plant will store the excess glucose, the surplus glucose will get converted into starch and stored in the plant parts. Get converted into starch and stored in the plant parts. What is this process called? This process is called polymerization. This process is called polymerization. What is polymerization? Polymerization is the storage of the excess amount of starch. Storage of excess amount of starch. Excess amount of glucose in the form of starch in the plant parts. Polymerization. Next, so this I said polymerization definition क्या लिखना है? Storage of surplus glucose, excess amount of glucose in the form of starch in the plant parts. So that is what you are going to understand as polymerization. Now we have been already talking about all these. So we said now let us talk about this. In this overall chemical equation, what are you also trying to understand is, in this overall chemical equation, we had already learned about the carbon dioxide, we had already learned about the water, we had already learned about the chlorophyll, we had learned about the glucose. Now we are learning about oxygen. Oxygen is the primary byproduct. Oxygen is the primary byproduct. What is the meaning of byproduct? Additional product. Additional product. You get questions in the paper. Write down the primary product formed during photosynthesis. क्या लिखना है? Glucose. Write down the primary byproduct. Oxygen. वैसे तो byproducts are oxygen and water both. Primary product. Oxygen. Primary byproduct is oxygen. What is the fate of this oxygen? It again has got two fates to understand. One is a larger amount, I should say, whatever amount of oxygen the plant produces, a leaf produces. Majority of the amount or the major fraction of the oxygen released into the atmosphere. And it is helping in the process of respiration of the animals. And a smaller fraction the plant keeps for itself. A small fraction the plant keeps for itself. A small fraction is for plant photorespiration. Only a small fraction is for the plant photorespiration, because the plant also will have to undergo the process of respiration. Yes or no? How is the plant? Why should the plant undergo the process of respiration? Here, what type of respiration are we talking about? The plant also has to break down this glucose to get energy, no? So, now that we are talking about the process of breakdown of glucose to release energy, already I have studied no respiration in the 9th standard. So, now that we talk about the breakdown of the glucose to release energy, in presence of oxygen, of course. So that's the reason it requires oxygen to break down the glucose so that it can be utilized for various purposes. So what is the fate of oxygen? This is what you are supposed to write. What is the fate of oxygen? Majority of it, a major fraction is released into the atmosphere, helping in the process of respiration, etc., etc. And a small amount is always kept back for the plant into the plant cells again, is diffused into the plant cells again, so that it can utilize it for photorespiration. Because why you are no energy today? Huh? Wait, Risha.
Ma'am, normal respiration and photosynthesis, what is the difference?
What is
the difference between normal respiration, aerobic, and
when you are talking about respiration? Otherwise, say suppose for us, our respiration is not dependent on light. But the plant's respiration is also light dependent. The entire set of reactions, no, light dependent. So now, when we are talking about this concept, the process of photosynthesis, next we are going to understand that ये जो overall chemical equation है, should I rub out all these? Now, when we are talking about this entire process of photosynthesis, so we have already learned some concepts about the reactants or say the raw materials or the products. Now we have to understand that this ये तो है basic skeletal reaction जो हम देख रहे हैं, है ना? And this entire process involves a large number of equations. So many different type of chemical equations are constantly happening. So now in the leaf, which are the two major parts? Which are the two major regions where these reactions can happen? The two major regions where the reactions would happen are the granum and the stroma. So already I brought it to your notice. ये जो दो word, this two you have to remember. What I told you, what is this? This is the stroma and this is the granum. Again. अरे बाप रे इतनी दोस्ती
मैम तो ठंडी फीवर हो रही है पूरी
चेतना प्लीज तुम पीछे जाओ
स्वेटर लाके दो इसको कोई भाई कितना शिवर कर रही है
जाओ पीछे चलेगा
बिल्कुल कंटिन्यू
after that it fall sick
no content I have a good area
Give the location of granum and stroma.
Exact location of the granum in the chloroplast. Location of the granum, chloroplast. Location of the stroma, chloroplast. That is what we'll write. And site where it is present in the mesophyll cells. Where are the chloroplasts present? What is the site of chloroplast? Location of chloroplast kya hai? Mesophyll cells.
mostly it is in
it is also in the
Guard cells. But prominent location mesophyll होता है. Guard cells में भी होगा. In the guard cells also it is there. Lesser in number. Prominently in the mesophyll cells. If at all you are asked in your paper that state the location of the chloroplast, mesophyll cells, guard cells. Okay, so now remember these two words that I am talking about, the grana and the stroma. So I said, so ये जो basic chemical equation that we are writing down, it's just a skeletal reaction that we are writing down. No, overall chemical equation we are writing down, which means that actually this entire process photosynthesis, if you have to study, it involves a large number of chemical equations one after the other. Almost about 20-30 chemical reactions in a cascade, one after the other, one after the other, one after the other. Cascade मतलब एक के product पे दूसरा reaction dependent होता है, उसके product पे तीसरा reaction dependent हो रहा है. So and that is what is happening. Now we are not going to learn all those reactions as per your syllabus, but we are going to understand that some of these reactions are dependent on light, and some of these reactions are actually not dependent on light. Basically, you understand that जैसे हम photosynthesis की बात करते हैं, the process is dependent on light. But now try to understand all the reactions are actually not dependent on light. There are some reactions which are dependent on light and some are not. So based on that, we can divide the entire set of reactions into two big phases. कौन-कौन से? The phases of photosynthesis. That is what we try understanding now. What are the phases of photosynthesis? There are two phases. One is light phase. Light phase. Also known as photochemical phase. Also known as Hill reactions. Hill reactions. What is the other one? Obviously, light is the dark phase. Huh? Dark phase. Dark phase. This tweaking sound is very irritating. Huh? Let me ask for a different. Because एक red या blue कहते ना dark phase, also known as biosynthetic phase, also known as Calvin cycle. So now Calvin cycle, Melvin Calvin ने ये introduce किया था. So we talk about, try understanding now that ये जो पूरा concept of photosynthesis है, all the steps are not actually dependent on light. तो जो सारे reactions completely dependent होता है on light, an adequate intensity of light के बिना वो reaction हो ही नहीं सकता, उसको हम बोलेंगे light phase. What is the other name? Photochemical reactions. What is the other set of terms? There are a large number of terms. So we talk about Hill reactions. Yes, सुबह उठ के.
Ma'am.
हाँ.
Ma'am, will you repeat light phase?
What is it?
Ma'am, will you repeat the explanation of light
I
phase?
said light phase has got a large number of alternative terms also. Light phase, या तो photochemical phase, या तो Hill reactions. And the other set of reactions are, thank you, and the other set of reactions which are not dependent on light.
वो हाथ ऊपर कर मैं ऐसे हाथ करके बैठा हूँ
हाथ तुमको लिखने के लिए है
मैम दिखा
उसको तुम्हारा मेहंदी दिखाने का जरूरत नहीं है what Dharma, you have to be very serious. You are a student. Now dark phase, biosynthetic phase, Kelvin cycle. Okay, now first of all we are going to understand light phase. Now here try understanding that whenever we are talking about the light phase, we are trying to come across certain set of reactions जो completely light पे dependent है. तो इसमें सबसे important है role of chlorophyll. Chlorophyll, a particular pigment which is also a light sensitive pigment. Try understanding that यहाँ पे सबसे important और first जो set of reactions होता है, that is the activation of chlorophyll. मतलब ये जो chlorophyll pigment जो thylakoid में बनेगा, this particular pigment at a very low intensity of light is not functional. This pigment at a very low intensity of light cannot start or initiate any reaction in the grana. Meaning, I would say that these light reactions, can it happen now? Probably not. Light reactions, can it happen at 11 o'clock at night? Probably not. Of course not. Light reactions, can it happen 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning at the first few streaks of light? Probably not. Because at that time the intensity of light is so low, which cannot initiate or activate the pigment. But maybe by something around 5 o'clock, perhaps yes, when the intensity of light is a bit higher and the pigment has started becoming active. And if the pigment is active and it has trapped certain amount of light, then only the rest of the reactions start happening. So what are you supposed to study under this? Let us write it in a sequence. All these 4 reactions you are supposed to remember. Let us start writing down those reactions. Light reactions, or if you write down this, very, very important for you. The 4 reactions that you have to understand. The first is activation of chlorophyll. The first is activation of chlorophyll. So for activation of chlorophyll, what is required? Certain units of light required. What are those units of light called? Photons. What are photons? A specific unit of light that can activate chlorophyll. That can activate chlorophyll. So the first step that I've written is activation of chlorophyll. So activation of chlorophyll के लिए क्या जरूरत है? Distinct units of light. Single unit of light or a distinct unit of light. इसको क्या बोलेंगे? Photons. What is a photon? A specific unit of light that is just necessary to activate the pigment. Just necessary to activate the pigment. What is the next? We are going to learn just 4 important reactions as per your syllabus. The second step, photolysis. photolysis. Photolysis or photolysis, either way you pronounce it. Photolysis, photolysis. Photolite, lysis means breakdown. Photolysis of what are we trying to understand? Water. Breakdown of the water molecule in the presence of light. Breakdown of the water molecule in the presence of light. So now here we try understanding as a result of the breakdown of the water molecule, what do we get? And as a result of the breakdown of the water molecule, what are we getting? We are getting hydrogen ions, we are getting electrons, and we are getting oxygen. Learn writing down the definition of photolysis. What is photolysis? This you get as a full 2-mark question also with the equation. This is the equation that you have to write down. Photolysis. What is photolysis? Write down. Breakdown of water molecule in the presence of light. Breakdown of water molecule in the presence of light. Breakdown of water molecule in the presence of light to give or to release. Breakdown of water molecule in the presence of light to release hydrogen ions, electrons and oxygen. This process takes place in the grana. This process takes place in the grana. Remember, the moment I talk about light reaction is happening in the grana. This reaction that now we can have all these happening in the grana. What is the third reaction? अच्छा, इस पे एक और question जो आता है paper में, that is, what is the source of oxygen release during photosynthesis? Oxygen कहाँ से release होता है? From the breakdown of the water molecule. Write down the question there only. What is the source of oxygen release during photosynthesis? उसके नीचे ये लिख के रखो. What is the source of the oxygen लिखो? So lazy you both. What is the source of oxygen release? बोलो. Four hydrogen ions. Four.
What is the?
Four hydrogen ions, 4 electrons and oxygen. What is the source of oxygen released during photosynthesis? आया question समझ में? See, how do we write down the overall chemical equation of photosynthesis? हम ऐसे लिखते हैं ना? Carbon dioxide है, अच्छा, and then water, and then the rest. So now that I'm talking about ये जो oxygen यहाँ पे release होता है, this oxygen is from this or this? That's the question. This also has got oxygen, this also has got oxygen. You are supposed to write oxygen is released from the breakdown of the water. So making a question. Write down the source of oxygen released during photosynthesis. Your answer is oxygen is released by the breakdown of water in the presence of light. Process को क्या बोलते हैं? What is that process? Photolysis. Photolysis. Next is reduction of NADP. Next step is reduction of NADP. NADP plus hydrogen ions plus electrons give NADPH. What is NADP? It's an energy rich molecule. इसका full form क्या है? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate getting reduced to give rise to NADPH2. क्या है full form? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide hydrogen phosphate. आया समझ में?
But it is 4 hydrogen.
हाँ?
There is 4 hydrogen.
कहाँ पे? We are not writing balanced equation नहीं है. Just you have to write down the reduction state. If काफी सारे reactions we are just writing it. The इतना full balanced नहीं लिखो तो भी चलेगा. So this is the third step. Let us write in the fourth step also. So we are done with this. Light reactions. What is the fourth step? The fourth step. Third. Now I write down the fourth. This is known as phosphorylation or rylation. I pronounce it this way. Photophosphorylation. Now photophosphorylation is what? The formation of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. So what is this? Adenosine diphosphate. And okay, I'm just writing this below, huh? This one I'm writing below. This is inorganic phosphate. Let me write it properly. Adenosine diphosphate. This is, and this is inorganic phosphate. Inorganic phosphate. ATP का full form क्या है? Adenosine triphosphate. Adenosine triphosphate. We have learned the 4 basic reactions. That's not all. We are only learning the 4 primary reactions जो light phase में होता है. Always remember, now that we are talking about the process of photosynthesis, it has got a large number of chemical reactions. We are just learning the major 5. So light reactions के अंदर you are learning the major 4. First step क्या था? Activation of chlorophyll. Second step क्या है? Photolysis. This is very, very, oh my god, bloodshed. Never mind.
Ma'am, it is a smiley dog or
No. Now, photolysis. This is very. मैं तुमको मेरा मेहंदी दिखाऊं. Now, photolysis. This is very, very important. Take a note of this. Photophosphorylation. Very, very important. You get differences on this. I'll give you these questions later. Photophosphorylation. What it is? Formation of ATP. Photolysis. What it is? Breakdown of water molecule. In the expand category of questions, you get this full form to be written. Expand is a type of a question that you get in your paper. Expand, NADP, full form याद रखना पड़ेगा. What is NADP? Nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. Okay. Done. I am be very, very energetic. Photophosphorylation. RY. Regulation. Some people would pronounce that as rylation. Relation. Both the pronunciations are correct. Spelling याद रखो. Spelling mistake नहीं होनी चाहिए. Spelling mistake should not be given. Durvesh. Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you done writing? Should I stop share?
Yes, ma'am, you can, ma'am.
Yes.
I don't have any ideas of this. Yeah.
ये पूरे दिन वही करते रहते हैं.
अंदर कुछ आएगा डेसिमल सेक्शन